an observation I recently had I'd like to share with you. Now, don't criticize me in the comments, but it is just an observation, okay? So I started a new yoga class and it was in the back of a gym, right at the back. There's a small studio. But walking through the gym and waiting around in the gym for the class, the observation was there were a lot of young people, mostly men, and they obviously had quite big arms. They'd been working out for a while. This was like generally over the majority of the gym. I could see mostly young men, quite big shoulders, big neck, big chest. But then I realized that they all had, you know, a little bit of a gut. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And they also had quite small legs. And I didn't notice it at first. It was just after a while I was looking at people's faces, and then as you're like looking around at the floor and that, you kind of look, and then you sort of see this triangle shape, as you'd expect, very triangle shape, but then very slim legs and a bit of a beer belly. And I saw a lot of them with energy drinks. And then when I was outside before coming and going after, and vapes, and I thought, yeah, I have seen a lot of people wearing sports attire and then still eating McDonald's, drinking the Monster, vaping, but going to the gym. And the other funny thing is they all arrive in their gym kit and leave in their gym kit. I thought, that's interesting. Anyway, so that's my observation. My observation is that lots of young people seem to be working out on their arms and their chest, and it looks almost like their neck as well, but still having, you know, and the headphones on, you know, the usual kind of stereotypical look, but still enjoying a lot of the other things in life. Now, like I said, this is only an observation, not a judgment. Everybody is an individual. Everybody can do as they choose, as long as it's not harming anybody else. But it made me think for a while that, you know, how many people are doing this thing because everybody else is, you know, headphones on, going to the gym, just gonna pump some iron. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong, everybody's entitled to do their own thing, and that's fine. But it kind of felt almost cult-like, that they were all, well, 90%, 95%, all young men, and probably a handful of young women. And now, I didn't want to be judgmental, but I was looking at how it kind of feels like it's a specific demographic, a specific group. And now, I apologize if this is not very nice, but it kind of felt a bit cult-like, you know, like everybody was sucked into it. Almost like back in the early 2000s, they were talking about young men that are disillusioned getting sucked into radical groups and things like that. And I thought, that's interesting. And then I thought, well, what influences are there? What things are influencing our young culture? Because it's down to us. It's down to the older generation to help influence and foster positive body image and positive attitudes and good moral people. It's down to the generation, because it comes down to education. All right, so I only blame myself and others before me. So I was thinking, well, every time I've seen a magazine, a men's magazine, like, I don't know, like Men's Health, there's a picture of a young man on there, generally with big muscles. You know, you've got the likes of Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds, and all these Hollywood stars, you know. I've forgotten his name now. Thanos, what was his name? Josh Brolin, you know, and all these celebrities now with their tops off, they're really in Hollywood. Got to be in shape, got to be in shape, got to be in shape. You know, to get these movies, the leading man, got to be in shape. All these people seem to have big muscles. And it just feels like that's all people want now, is or they feel influenced by on the films, the TV shows, the magazines. It's all about men with muscles.
Oh my God.
So I thought that was interesting. So, you know, also I get the impression that it's women's fantasies. When you watch some interviews on the street, and they say, you know, what kind of men are you looking for? And they're like, oh, he's got to be this. And often he's got to be very active and muscular. That's the word I was looking for, muscular. And so I'm like, why do women just want a muscular man that's always 6 foot tall? Why is that? And that's from the magazines and the Hollywood. And I thought that's interesting, because surely there must be a conflict between what's actually really, really healthy, you know, being a healthy person, and trying to have a young person consumerism lifestyle of, you know, vaping and then the takeaways and the drinking and the social life. Because often social life is a very small part of a human's whole holistic well-being. You know, you've got your fitness and your work and your family, and then your community and everything. And socializing would only be a small aspect. And when I say socializing, I mean drinking. That would be just a small part. But for young people, it seems that's one of the biggest parts, followed by the gym and their work. It seems to be only the room for those three things. And anything else that's healthy is kind of off the table. So we don't really see or think about anybody going for walks, doing mindfulness, any other activities that's good for the soul or their environment or their community. It just seems to be solely based on work, drinking and the gym. And I know I'm really, really laying it on thick and tarring everybody with this brush. All right. But it does feel that way. It does seem that there's a lot of people focusing on getting their muscles and saying they're healthy and they're active and they're, you know, looking after themselves. But are they really? I really feel there's that massive conflict, you know, and some people know about it. So then there's that cognitive dissonance. So it's interesting. Also, the next point is the dark side of weightlifting that doesn't really get talked about. Now, obviously the most famous weightlifter that we all know about is Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, and back in the 70s and 80s, he was a mammoth of a man. But nowadays, he would be considered small as a bodybuilder. So the use of steroids and making it a full-time thing and just bulking up and getting big is really, really prevalent. I mean, you look at the world's strongest men. I don't want to name names, but, you know, I admire those guys for the work they do and the effort and their tenacity. But if you don't make it to number one or number two, you know, or you have an incident or an accident, you end up just being a really big person. And if you're not able to keep burning those calories, you've got to think about an exit strategy. How you can bring your body back down to normal size, because most people's bodies aren't naturally hench and massive. So they're working towards something and doing something. But once you're out of that, you need to think about exit strategy, because long-term effects of bodybuilding. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger has been very smart and brought it down gently. But other bodybuilders, you hear that, Googled it, there's quite a number of bodybuilders that have died through a heart attack and through abuse of steroids and other chemicals. Now, you just look at all the supplements. Every bodybuilder and his brother is pushing and peddling supplements. You've got to buy this supplement, this one and that one, scientifically proven, and this is what I have. And I understand selling merchandise and you know, being your business, but these supplements, do these people really need all these supplements? It feels like everybody's selling themselves out. I understand you've got to look after number one. I understand that you've got to make it into a business and to survive. But do you have to sell yourself out by selling something less ethical, like these so-called supplements with very, very little real scientific evidence of actual benefit in the powder? So not just people dying, people end up with arthritis, heart issues, bone problems. There's a lot of undocumented dark side and problems with weightlifting. Not just to talk about, well, I'll get onto that next point in a minute, but other issues. All right, move on. The emotional side of things. So lots of young men have testosterone and energy, and sometimes they get angry. Now, instead of looking at that anger and looking at themselves and learning ways of being balanced and healthy within your community, within your family, instead of looking at ways of dealing with that, society kind of pushes towards sport. So then you've got rugby, you've got like martial arts and other explosive energy things, which if not looked at properly can prevent or minimize somebody actually learning how to deal with all that frustration. Because that's what it is a lot of the time. A lot of young people get frustrated that they're stuck in a situation and they've got all this energy and enthusiasm and excitement, and they need to release it, you know, which is understandable, which is normal. But if it's not fostered with good maternal and paternal instincts of growing as a real man, then it can go to the dark side, all right? Now, I'm not blaming Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you know what I'm saying. Right. So another aspect I wanted to look at, or another part, would be other cultures. Because I'm saying this is about, you know, like Western culture, and this is what I saw in the UK. But you look at other cultures, like India. India has a lot of wrestling, you know, and it kind of sort of emanates from the tribes and going back into their culture. So a lot of wrestling, I don't know whether, and then other cultures like Mongolia and other more recently tribal cultures have like stick battles or chasing a goat's head, you know, in teams and things like that. So there are lots of other activities from community and tribes where you can have that competition, that competitiveness, but without being focused on must get bigger, you know, and trying to get a woman because you got bigger muscles than her last boyfriend. So there are other things going on in other cultures. There are other ways of being healthy, like I know Spartans or High Rocks and other competitive games where you go running and lifting and, you know, muddy tuckers. I think, is it called muddy tuckers? Like a race where you get, you know, muddy and you're going through ditches and stuff like that. A lot of fun. So often if you find women involved with it, then it's not too aggressive and testosterone driven. So things like that are really, really good morale builders. And you get a lot of camaraderie as well and friendships out of those things. Okay, so yeah, that's all I want to say. The emotional aspect of dealing with the, in a parental way, you know, the frustration and making sure it doesn't go into anger. All right, so that's what I'm talking about in regards to health. All right, anyway. But not over many, many decades, unless you're a gladiator, being that hench, being that bulked up, that muscular, like your neck, your chest, your arms, is not natural. It's not necessary. It's putting undue stress on your body. It's definitely not a good idea. I would not recommend my children getting into weightlifting and bulking up because there's no, apart from just looking a bit bigger, there's no advantage of it. Now, actually, scientifically proven, there's a lot of advantages of being smaller. Smaller in stature and smaller in frame. You've got much better life expectancy if you're a smaller person. All right? You're less likely to get picked on in a fight or targeted for somebody to hit. You're less likely to stand out for anybody else. And you're more likely to have much better health benefits. So that's just a few. And that's fact. I'm not making it up. That's fact. You can research it for yourself. Well, I recommend you do research it. Okay. So conclusion. My thoughts are it's interesting seeing what influences are on young people these days. All right. And I wonder what other influences there are. You know, like for example, insurance. Insurance for everything. Life insurance. Insurance for your gadgets, insurance for everything in your house, insurance for walking somebody else's dog. There's insurances for everything. And that just seems to be a way people have been influenced. So is that more like litigation? Are we becoming more and more like the USA and other states that do, I don't know, sue their employer, somebody for tripping over, looking for somebody to blame, always trying to be a victim so you can get some money. You know, is that a thing that we're going towards? Online life, that seems to be massive at the moment. Everybody is spending so much time on the screen. Don't need to tell you that. You're watching this on a video now on YouTube. But home ownership, you know, that was like from Margaret Thatcher back in the 70s and 80s. Buy your own home. But now everybody feels, in a world where our jobs are much more transient, we have a home that we're stuck into a mortgage. Now, fair enough buying your own home, but paying that interest for decades, that interest is what's killing us. And people now are living hand to mouth because we don't have any free income at the end of the week, at the end of the month, because it's all gone on the house, making it look pretty, making it look this. Go to B&Q, go to some other shop, buy lots of things, decorate, make it look nice, get a deck, get a sauna, get a cold bath, get a little outdoor bar, get yourself a hot tub. It's buy, more and more consumerism. All right, instead of going out and doing stuff, it's consuming stuff, and to spend money. So that's a real influence that's happening now with media, and like I said, cashless society. You know, that's taken over now. The list goes on. Daily Starbucks. You know, you could go on forever. All the things that we're being influenced towards now. You know, it's almost like if you're not outside of the system, if you're not different, if you can't think for yourself, then you just do the same as everybody else, like you're shown by the media. I mean, what's next? A chewing guard where you go and chew on a bit of plastic because some influencer tells you to, and spend 10 quid on that? Do you buy stuff that says the name of a gym up here, you know, or if you've got a specific strap on your wrist because an influencer tells you it's the best thing ever? You know, who do they really care about? They care about their own bottom line. They care about their shareholders. They care about money, as I've mentioned before. So you don't need all these things. You really don't. Be an individual. Be yourself. Think. Do you really need to spend and waste this money on something that's going to be next year's trend? You know, have you got a widget spinner? You know, that craze? Now that's gone. Just take a moment to think about your money and where it's really going. So there's a lot of influences. There's a lot of people telling you what to spend your money on and how to live your life, which I think is a little bit sad that we're being brainwashed all the time. You know, it's omnipresent, this advertising just in your face all the time, overstimulating, and buy this, do this, do that, get this app, get that app. You know, subscribe to this, subscribe to that. It's crazy. It seems so much. Okay, what influences have you seen? Let me know in the comments. What influences have you seen, and what kind of measures do you do to combat the pressure? All right. So whether it's your friends or your family, whether it's something your work colleagues, what is everybody else doing now that you think, no, I don't want to do that. Why should I pay for that? What influence have you seen, not just in society, but in your own community? Let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting to know. Let's have a conversation. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.